Hi guys, long time no see. I know that this video is long overdue and I haven't posted in years, but I thought now would be a perfect time to give a little collection update and fill you in on where I've been for the past few years. Before we get into the main topic of this video though, I would just like to mention that I will be reading from a script because this is a topic that is quite sensitive and I don't want to misspeak or say anything out of line or anything that could possibly get me sued. So I want to be really intentional and careful with my words. But with that, I might come off a little bit robotic or sound a little bit void of any emotion, and that's not on purpose. Unfortunately, that's just how I read. I'm still an active K-pop album collector, kind of fallen off with the photo cards, really. I'm not as interested in it as I was before. I've been trying to get back into it, but it's really not my cup of tea. I've actually downsized my photo card collection quite a bit. But you'll notice in this video that I am primarily selling photo cards related to boy groups, specifically Hybe boy groups that I no longer consider myself to be fans of. I am no longer collecting Hybe groups in general because of the company's ties to Zionism. Both the higher-ups and the artists have made their stances clear at this point, and it's just disappointing and frustrating to continue to hold out hope that they'll speak up for the genocide that's happening in Palestine and has been happening for years. I mean, it's 2026, and there's really no excuse at this point. And if you're wondering why specifically I am holding them to this standard and not other K-pop groups from other companies, it's because of their CEO, Scooter Braun. And if you don't know about that man, and you don't know about any of his controversies, and you don't know his ties to Zionism, then please go look it up. Go watch a separate video explaining it, because it will take so much more of my time and energy to explain it all to you. But this is all public information and all information that has been shared and circulated for years. It has been known. When he was working in the Western industry, this was still an issue with him. He has direct ties to Israel, and he has direct ties to Zionist propaganda. He is not a man that I want to financially support in any way, shape, or form. And since he receives a cut of money from all of his artists under Hybe, that means that I don't feel comfortable streaming, supporting, buying any of their products in any way, shape, or form. I have been participating in Zionist brand boycotts since October 2023, and that includes Hybe groups. So it's been about 3 years since I last watched or streamed any content from TXT, BTS, or 17. LE SSERAFIM, From Us 9 even, for a period of time before they switched labels. I still occasionally listen to the CDs in my car, and of course local files exist, but as for any other content that gets uploaded on YouTube or any other social media platform, I've completely disengaged from those accounts. I've blocked them, they're not on my timeline, and overall, I haven't really been tapped in to the fandoms in about 3 years now. There's been comebacks from TXT that I couldn't even tell you what the title track sounded like, because I simply have been so put off by them and so removed from the fandom, all in the hopes that the company would notice the drop in numbers and the lack in interest and the lack of talk on social media about the comeback. But unfortunately, people did not boycott. They simply did not put in the effort. They didn't want to lose their spots on the music charts. They didn't want to lose the numbers. They didn't want to lose the touring or the meet and greets or the fan calls or risk having their record broken by another group. In the beginning, I really tried my best to advocate and convince people to join the boycott and to urge Hybe to divest from Zionism and to educate the idols. But after 3 years of talking to a wall, I pretty much decided that it wasn't worth my time. The ARMY fandom has turned into an echo chamber, and really they function with a cult-like mentality. They care more about fame and numbers than they do about the human lives, and personally, I don't want to be associated with that. So, to protect my own sanity, I decided to just step away entirely. But it isn't entirely the fans' fault, because at the end of the day, I can just block and move on from people in my timeline if they have morals or values that I don't align with. I don't have to see their account. But unfortunately, the BTS members themselves have also done some questionable things regarding brand deals and sponsors that they choose to represent and artists that they choose to feature with. I also found it profoundly offensive the way that they erased Black history in their most recent comeback. It was to the point where I was convinced that that was going to be the final straw and that they were done for. And yet there were still people running to come to their defense and saying that people were misinterpreting it and that we didn't understand the real message of the video. If you were going to tie your group's lore into an actual historical place or event that took place, then you should get your facts straight. Howard University was a predominantly Black school, and in that video, they had 0 Black people. And just so we're clear, K-pop would not exist without Black people. BTS wouldn't exist without Black people. And with the level of fame that they have, I find it really egregious to misrepresent history like this. And this is not the first or the second or the third or the fourth time that Hybe has fumbled something so badly and done something so culturally insensitive. It gets to a point where not everything can be blamed on ignorance. Hybe has been in the industry long enough to know better. They should have the cultural competence. They should have the team that's able to fact check. They keep making these mistakes because they don't care. They don't care about the fans that get hurt. They don't care about the impact it has. And they won't care until it starts affecting their profit. So it's not hard to understand why I no longer feel obligated to keep collecting BTS and TXT. I no longer have any interest in those groups in general, and the CDs that I do have, I will continue to play if I ever get the urge to, but I will not be purchasing or tuning into any new comebacks. Even if Hybe were to divest from Zionism tomorrow and they were to fire Scooter Braun and he wouldn't get a cent from me, I think I would still not stand those groups again because I would feel too bitter and jaded from all the years of silence from the artists and the lack of action from the fans. I know I sound really angry and frustrated, but there's still a sadness that I feel because BTS was the first group that I ever stan. It's what got me into K-pop in 2018, which felt like 2 years ago, but it's actually kind of closer to a decade ago, which makes me feel really old. Love Yourself Answer was the first K-pop album that I ever purchased with my own money. I watched the TXT members be revealed one by one, and I watched their debut stage the day it came out, and it was really exciting for me because I was like, oh my gosh, finally, a group that I was here to watch practically from the start. And as you can tell from this video, I made it a lot further in my TXT collection, mostly because I think their albums had a lot more versions to them, so naturally I just had to buy more albums in order to get farther along in it. Besides Luna, TXT was the group that I had the most albums of. It makes me sad to think that after all the time and money that I invested in my collection, I'll never be able to see it through to the end because it just feels unethical to give my money to Scooter Braun. I can't even bring myself to listen to local files of their recent comebacks because it's just not going to be the same experience for me without being able to participate with all of the content. I can't even talk about it on Twitter because I don't want to promote Hybe groups or bring any more traction to the official accounts because that will also put money into Scooter's pockets. A lot of people might call me performative for this, and that's fine. I really don't have to prove myself to a bunch of strangers on the internet. But I will say that I at least am consistent with my efforts to minimize funding the genocide in the ways that I can. My biggest priority is voting with my dollar. I try my best to support brands that align with my values, and I've cut out so many brands and music artists out of my life in the past 3 years for not using their platforms to speak up. My own damn country has a hand in this genocide, okay? Like, they are one of the top funders of this genocide, and at times it feels like there's absolutely nothing that I can do, that I have absolutely zero power. But that's how they want you to feel. They want you to believe that there's nothing you can do and that you are helpless and powerless against them. And that's not true. I do have power in my voice. And I don't mean to virtue signal, but some of you need to hear and be reminded that you do have power in your life and in the choices that you make. Go out and vote. Use your voice. Use whatever platform you have. And before anybody comments it, yes, this is that deep. Everyone wants to be anti-intellectualism and say, oh, it's not that deep, it's just K-pop, it's just music, I just want to listen to silly music and collect my silly little photo cards and trinkets. And that's why these K-pop companies keep taking advantage of you. I'm not saying to not listen to K-pop ever again and that you can't stand any group because all of the members are secretly bad people or whatever. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you need to think critically, you need to think for yourself. You need to avoid the herd mentality that happens within K-pop groups, and you need to be mindful of the harmful marketing tactics that are out there, because they can and they will take advantage of you any given chance. At the end of the day, the K-pop industry is an industry. It's a business. It's run like a business, and at the end of the day, their goal is to just make money. Don't be a cash cow for a company at the expense of your own values and morals, or at the expense of the artist's values or morals. We are all very well aware of the AI trend that has been happening in K-pop recently, and we know that some of the artists don't get a say in the graphic design or in the music video production, so it's not entirely up to them if AI gets included in the work or not. But you as a fan should see that as disrespectful to the artists that you support and stan. Why are they not worth investing in real art, in real artists? Don't accept AI usage as inevitable. Speak up. Let these companies know that AI devalues the work of the artists. It makes you think less of the company. It makes you less likely to invest in the comeback. It makes you less likely to want to purchase the album or stream the music because it reflects poorly on the company's values. If you as the consumer don't like what they're giving out, then stop buying it. Stop giving them money for it. Don't exhaust yourself trying to compromise on your morals and ethics, because most of the time it's really not worth it. It's really not worth the mental anguish to constantly be at war with yourself, to constantly be justifying to yourself why you're still giving your effort and energy towards this thing that no longer feels good and makes you feel guilty instead. You can fill your life with other things that make you happy, with other groups that make you happy, with other music artists that make you happy, with other forms of art that make you happy. I feel like a lot of people are held back from completely unstanning and stepping away from Hybe groups because they feel like they've invested so many years and so much time and money into not only the group but into the fandom and into the fan spaces that they would feel like if they walked away they would be left with nothing, that their entire youth was dedicated to something and that they can't imagine walking away from it, and they're afraid of what will happen if they leave. And I can empathize with that. I completely understand that as somebody who's been in fan spaces since I was 12 years old. Being a very lonely, mentally ill child on the internet, you tend to find comfort in fan spaces because that's the only sense of community that you have. But there are communities for literally anything you can imagine out there. Any interest you have, there's a community out there. There's a Reddit group out there. There's a Tumblr group out there. There's a Facebook group out there. Like, there's quite literally endless opportunities for you to make connections with people over things that bring you joy and bring you happiness. Leaving the BTS fandom was actually the easiest decision of my life because they've always been hostile towards me. They didn't like that I was a multi-stan. They didn't like that I wouldn't credit all of K-pop's success to them. They didn't like that I had opinions on things. They didn't like that I spoke about those opinions. They didn't like that I called out members instead of brushing controversies under the rug. They wanted me to think that every song they released was amazing and the best song ever. They wanted me to stream nonstop all day long, multiple accounts on multiple devices. They wanted me to pretty much just be a streaming farm and a yes man for every single thing that the boys did. And that's not the kind of fan that I was, because I wanted to engage with art critically, and I wanted to enjoy being a fan and make jokes and be fun and be silly instead of being there to promote BTS for free. In all my years in fan spaces, I have never been in another fandom that expected you to clock into stan Twitter like armies did. They treated that shit like a full-time job. They did not play about streaming. They did not play about the numbers. That's all they wanted to do, was just focus on the records and the awards and the numbers. It was mind-boggling and frankly disheartening, because it was like being in a room full of robots. Like, all these people just wanted to talk about numbers. And even the people who did claim to be there for the music and be all about the music and the lyricism and the artistry, those would also be the same people that would dox you if you said that you didn't like Dynamite, or dox you if you said that someone's voice wasn't as good as another member's voice. You know, they were really strict around there, and it would get really scary really fast if you said something that they didn't like. Suddenly, your address is posted. And I know that armies like to brag about this, like it's a cool thing that they function essentially as a literal army, but it's actually not cool, and it is kind of embarrassing and weird, and like not in the way that misogynists like to talk about female fans. Not in that way. It's embarrassing and weird in the sense that nobody should care that much about strangers to the point that they're willing to create a militia to go after somebody for writing a album review. Like, it gets weird at some point, guys. Like, shouldn't you have better things to do? Shouldn't you have literally anything else to do with your time? And this is what I was talking about when I said that they turned into an echo chamber and a cult-like mentality. Like, quite literally, they shut down any opinion that speaks against BTS in a even slightly negative manner. You're not allowed to say anything but praise about them. And I think that that's extremely reductive, especially in a creative field. How are BTS supposed to improve and grow as artists if they're not getting honest and critical feedback, especially from other creatives in the field, or, I don't know, accredited music reviewers? So I left and never looked back. And honestly, I've been having a much better time on Twitter now, you know? And I believe that to grow as people, you also need to get criticized, and you need to be called out when you're being hypocritical and when you are not speaking up and standing up for the things that you paraded yourself as. You know, BTS's whole message was to speak up for what's right and to push back against the barriers that kept people oppressed. That was their whole shtick. Lately, it doesn't seem like they're living up to what they said they would be. They've turned into billionaires that don't put their money where their mouth is. And you can donate to as many charities as you want, but that does not erase the blood money that you are currently getting under that company. That does not change the fact that you could be doing so much more and so much better if you would just speak up and use your platform But they won't do that because then they will lose the brands and the sponsors. And it seems like nobody wants to bring up the fact that they're so rich now that they can buy themselves out of their contract. They can become blacklisted from the industry, and they would still be able to live a comfortable life. They could retire right now, and they would still never have to work another day in their life because that's how much money that they have accumulated. They don't want to give up that fame and put their careers at risk for speaking up. They're choosing to stay comfortable and to stay rich instead of using their platform to speak up. They are just like any other billionaire out there, and you will never catch me defending billionaires, ever. You can do as many good deeds as possible, but if you're ignoring the one glaring issue that is present in our current society and not addressing it, I no longer trust you. I no longer idolize you. I no longer want to be associated with you. Because to me, the silence is a stance. Your silence is telling me where you stand. I'm sorry that this video wasn't lighthearted. It wasn't a very fun way to come back to my account, but it was something that was important to me that I felt like I needed to talk about. I quite literally felt like I needed to address the elephant in the room. If you'd like to make a counterpoint in the comment section, you are free to do that, but please include a pineapple emoji so that I know that you actually made it this far in the video and you're not just posting a hate comment without even watching or listening to anything I was saying. You're free to discuss your own perspectives in the comment sections. I might not respond to everything because honestly, this isn't something that I really am willing to have a debate on at this point. I'm pretty firm in my beliefs. Like I said, this has something to do with my own morals and ethics. This is something that I am not really going to budge on. So if you're going to try to change my mind in the comments or guilt trip me or tell me that I wasn't actually ever a real fan, then you can save it because I'm just going to end up deleting it. Thank you for watching, and if you're still subscribed even after my long hiatus, thank you for sticking around. You guys probably subscribed and then immediately forgot about my account, and you're randomly getting this notification, and you're like, what the hell is happening? Well, thank you anyways for clicking on the video. I'll try to post a little bit more regularly and post some different content besides just collection updates. But if you'd like to hear from me on a more consistent basis, then I recommend following my Twitter. I'll leave it in the description below. Again, if you're just going to go to my Twitter account to like try to dox me, you're a loser and you need to get a job in life. Okay, bye.